It's the middle of summer and things are getting hot, so now's a good time to cool down. We've got another attraction spotlight this week, and this time it's Grizzly River Run. This is episode 89. I'm Soraya.
I'm Aurora.
And together we're just your average Disney travelers. Okay, so we have a lot of news actually. There's been a lot of updates to get to because we haven't really been doing any, and then more things have been announced. And so let's do that before we get to the actual topic this week. First of all, Pirates is open. Woo! And Jack is still there. Some people were worried because it all got started during the trials, whether or not they'd take Jack out, but then people started realizing he was still in like World of Color and other things, and so they realized no, they're not. And thankfully they didn't. He's there. Everything's just fresh. Now the first day though, it opened on the 1st, which was last Friday, not this past Friday, but the Friday before, because this is coming out on the 10th. It was a kind of a mess. It went down 12 times that day, and there were long wait lines because it kept going down. But I think things have been going smoother, and so that's good news.
Yeah.
So glad it's back. Everyone knows it's my favorite. You like it too.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, so we're excited that it's back and running, and we'll get to go on it the next time we go. Another thing that's been announced is that, or I guess the big thing that's been announced is that Splash Mountain, the news about the total reimagining it into a Princess and the Frog theme. They got a name, and they say an opening date, but it's not really a date, it's a time frame. But it's going to open the end of 2024, so in a little over 2 years. That's quite a long ways away. And the name is Tiana's Bayou Adventure. I believe that was the name. Now I can't remember. I think that's it.
Okay.
And so, first of all, I want to hear your thoughts on what you think about that before I share mine, because I don't want to taint yours.
My first thought was that bayous are kind of flat and they don't really have
a mountain.
Yeah,
exactly. And so it's like what are they gonna do?
Yeah, it's like I get that's like the bayou was in.
It has to be the bayou.
Princess and Frog, yeah. And they're doing Princess and the Frog. It's like,
how is that going to fit? How different is it going to look, and how are they going to fit that into the theme, into the attraction? Because we know the attraction. I believe we know, as far as I know, the attraction's still going to be the same. It's the same.
Maybe instead of being like a rock, it's like a giant tree.
Maybe. A lot of people have actually said that they wished, instead of doing Tiana and doing Princess and the Frog, that this was actually a Pocahontas theme. Because you could do that going down like a waterfall if she was on the river or something.
Yeah.
And some people were saying even at least if they did Tiana's over here at Disneyland, but did the, because at least here it does kind of fit because it's right next to
New Orleans.
It's technically in Critter Country, but it's right next to New Orleans Square.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a good merging of the two. But at Disney World, it's like in Frontierland. And so they're like, how does that fit Frontierland? And so they're like, man, I wish it could have been, Pocahontas there. And I really kind of agree, because I should say, I get what they're saying, and I would agree with that. I'm holding out to see how it'll end up, because they always end up doing a good job, at least most of the time. And so I'm hoping that that's the case. But here was my big thing, though. I was not sad at all when they said that they were changing it over, as long as the ride was staying, when they were changing it to Princess and the Frog. But once I heard the name, I got sad all of a sudden, because all of a sudden I realized, and I guess I was still holding out hope that this would work out somehow, that it's not going to be Splash or a mountain.
Yeah.
And that, like, we always talk about, oh, let's go do Splash, or, things like that. And now we can't call it that. And not only that, but then the mountains are calling. You just got that shirt this last year, I think.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, wait, now it's not one of the mountains, except it kind of is. So I don't know. It made me feel a little bit sad about that, just for that reason.
I feel like a lot of people are still going to call it Splash Mountain.
Well, I know. I will accidentally do it, even though I'll try not to. Although I don't know, I don't call Lightning Lanes Fast Pass very often.
I do.
Do you?
Yeah.
So I don't know. But anyway, so that's going to be in a couple more years. So we've got a bit of time. No one knows yet. They haven't announced when they're going to close. And this is actually both for Disneyland and Disney World. I think they're going to do them at the same time. And so I don't know if they'll open the exact same day, but they'll be in the same time frame. We don't know exactly when they're going to close. The speculation is it always goes down for regular maintenance in the beginning of the year, like around January. And so the speculation is, would they just keep it closed then the rest of that year? How long is it going to take? What exactly are they doing? How much change will there be? Is it actually going to be almost a whole year's worth of work? Or maybe they'll reopen it for the summer and then just have it closed during the fall and open it right before Christmas? Who knows? We don't know.
Who knows, yeah.
So anyways, a lot still unknown there. Now I'm trying to think of what our other announcements were. Those were the things that have been on my mind. Do you know of any other?
No, you didn't tell me any of this.
Dang it. Okay. Well, I think there's been little things like here's another
Nemo.
big one. Yeah, so there's a couple big ones.
You did tell me about that one.
So Finding Nemo, the walls are down, and it will be opening later this month in July. And we do see, even though it's not up and running yet, so you can't see what's in the ride yet, they do have Hank, the septopus, because he only has 7 tentacles, not an octopus, on a rock. And he looks like he's giving kind of this evil glare or stern look over at the seagulls, and almost like he's raising his fist as one of his tentacles. We don't know yet if he's going to move, if he's going to talk, but the idea, people are kind of anxious to see how that'll play out. What people have seen, it looks beautiful. The water is crystal clear, gorgeous, fresh paint on everything. We don't know what other characters may have been added from Finding Dory, but I'm actually really kind of curious, and even though that's not my favorite ride, I want to go on it just to see.
I want to see what they do with the submarines.
Yeah, like, do they fix the seating inside, and what could they have done? I don't know. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
So that was one. And then the other thing was they have announced more of the benefits for the people who are staying in the Disney park or Disney hotels at Disneyland, that they do get an early entry, and that which we knew they were going to. We just didn't know what it would look like. Now we know it's going to be basically half hour early into whichever park they want every day.
Yeah.
Which I was really hoping wasn't the case, because we rarely stay on property at Disneyland, and that puts us that are off property at a disadvantage. But to be fair, Disneyland Hotel in the past hasn't had as many strong perks, really big advantages.
Yeah.
As like Disney World's does. And so this is a big advantage. It gives them, the rest of us will just be half hour behind the ball, no matter which park we go to on any day. So, and they haven't announced whether or not they're going to bring back any early entries for ticket holders, because they used to be, if you had a 3 days or more, you could go in early one day, and it had to be the Disneyland day when they were alternating days. But no one has heard anything of it, so it doesn't sound like that's going to come back. So we're always going to be a half hour behind the hotel guests.
Yeah.
Sounds like. So anyways, they also have things like pool parties at the Disney hotels now every afternoon, and so that's cool for them. But anyways, yeah.
Yeah.
So it doesn't apply to us, though, because we very rarely stay there.
Yeah, I don't remember the last time we stayed at a Disneyland.
The last time you
resort
did was when we were there with Heather.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. But anyhow, okay, let's get on to this topic. So we are doing another attraction spotlight. It's Grizzly River Run, and why don't you start us off?
Okay, so it opened, it was an opening day attraction, so February 8th, 2001. Is located in Grizzly Peak in Disney California Adventure.
Yeah. So it's over across the way from the Disneyland Park in DCA.
Yeah. The attraction type is a water ride, thrill ride, spinning, small drops, all of that. It's about 5 minutes long. You can have 8 passengers per vehicle or raft. Is it a raft?
I guess you could call it that. But it's like this.
It's like a big fortified raft.
Yeah, I guess. Um, I want to say I always get the impression it's more. It looks to me like more like a big, huge inner tube. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's yeah, vehicle, however you want to call it.
Yep. You have to be 42 inches or taller to be able to go on it, and you must be able to transfer from a wheelchair or ECV. It does have lightning lanes through Genie Plus, and the theme of it is California State Parks.
All right, so there's a backstory with this one, of course, like there is for most of their rides. The majestic grizzly bear is the symbol of California, land of towering peaks, giant trees, and thundering waterfalls. I grew up in California, so I love this. As you make your way towards the debarkation point, look for the distinctive bear profile at the top of the mountain. According to early folklore, Grizzly Peak was once a giant bear named, okay, I can't pronounce this, Usumate, I hope, whom Ahale, the coyote, transformed into stone to watch over and protect the mountain. Listen closely, and you may hear the great bear's spirit roaring along the river. And so the description that Disney gives is embark on a thrilling white water raft adventure that splashes you down a roaring California river deep in the mountains. Strap into a circular 8-person raft. There you go. They call it raft.
It is a raft. Let's go.
Yeah. And drift along a lazy river, passing the rusty remnants of an old mining company. Rumble up to the top of the mountain and brace yourself for an exhilarating descent down Grizzly River on a wild river ride. Bob and spin through the raging current. Careen through a craggy mountain cavern. Plummet down a perilous bedrock slope. Ease your way back to base camp, but not before navigating waters overrun with gushing geysers. That sounds fun.
Yeah.
Especially on a day like this when it's like 111 here. I could go for some Grizzly River Run. Yeah, it is fun. It is exciting. It's a fun ride. But, fun fact, you will get wet. Oh, I took your fun fact.
Yeah, that was mine.
I'm sorry. I'm used to you doing the
fun
circles.
Fact. So, fun fact, you will get wet.
That's true. So, you can't avoid it. They
No.
actually, they do, I believe, in the winter when it's cooler, they do kind of turn down the flow of the water so that it won't splash quite as much. But it's still going to splash a little bit. And during the summer, forget it. It's like raging and everyone's going to get at least a bit wet.
Yeah.
Lockers are available next to the 20-foot tall grizzly statue that's right next to the entrance, and those lockers are free for the first 2 hours. So you can put your stuff in there if you're worried about things getting ruined or anything like, easy to do.
Yeah. In 2018, warming huts were added where you could pay $5 for up to 5 people to enjoy 5 minutes of warmth to help dry off. They really like their fives.
Yeah.
But they were only there for one season, so must not have been used often. So.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. We never used it. I don't think we went during the time that it was open, that they had the huts. I can't remember seeing them. But
it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. Would you have wanted to use it? Probably.
I don't know, maybe.
I mean,
yeah.
if it was a cooler day, you'd want to dry off quickly. So
yeah.
Hopefully it got you dry enough and didn't just, I don't know, make you warm so that when you stepped outside you were freezing.
Yeah.
I don't know. The queue is themed to California State Parks, Redwood Creek, and the Sacramento River, and takes place in the fictional Grizzly River Rafting Company. I love that it's kind of taking place and themed around the Sacramento River because, again, I grew up right there on that river, and so that's really cool.
Parts of the ride theme are from the California Gold Rush, and relics from the fictional Eureka Gold and Timber Company can be found throughout the ride.
Yep, and so it's got actually kind of a front of that Eureka or the timber company and the big water mill and all that, and it's a great spot to get photos taken and stuff. So It's a good area, and it's also right next to one of the best churro carts in Disneyland.
Okay, the beginning climb of this ride is 50 feet, which is the height of Splash Mountain.
Which I didn't realize it got that high.
Yeah. or the letters of the Hollywood sign, which I didn't realize.
Yeah.
Which that is the Hollywood sign. Where
The
is
Hollywood
it?
sign in Hollywood Hills. That's the big where it says Hollywood all in
Right,
the
yeah,
hills when
yeah.
you're near LA. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking at Disneyland. I was like,
Oh,
what?
no, no, no,
But
no.
no.
No. And the actual
Yeah,
Hollywood.
the actual Hollywood sign.
Yeah.
Which are 50 feet,
Yeah.
apparently.
Yeah. I didn't realize that was how tall they were. So there are 2 drops in this attraction. The first one isn't really super dramatic, but the second one is over 20 feet. And that doesn't really sound like a lot, except that when you go down it, it's like, and it's not even like a huge drop. It's fairly tame, like compared to Splash Mountain, because the drop in Splash Mountain is something like 40 feet.
Yeah.
But it's a good drop, and it's just, you're in water, so you just know you're going to get wet.
Is it the height or is it the length?
Oh, I don't
the
know.
slope?
I don't
'Cause
know.
If it's the height, then that can be a pretty long-ish slope.
Depending on the slope,
Because,
yeah.
the slope will be longer than the actual height.
That's true. I don't
If
know.
it's just the slope itself, that's not that much.
Yeah.
So I think it's the height.
I think it's the height because it seems like, if I'm imagining ourselves going over that edge and heading down towards where the water's dripping and everything. Oh, man. Yeah.
Okay, so this is similar to the Cali River Rapids in Animal Kingdom, but a little more intense and wow, I cannot speak. Intense and exciting.
Yeah, so if you compare the two, this one's definitely the one that people prefer. It's a way more intense ride.
Yeah.
If you like Cali River Rapids, then this might almost be too much. I don't know. But if you think Cali River Rapids is a little bit boring, then, or if you're more familiar with Disneyland and you love this ride, be prepared to have a serious toned down when you get to Cali River Rapids if you go to Disney World.
Yeah.
The rafts were designed to spin as you're cruising down the hill. And that's the part that I have the hardest time with, because y'all know I'm not so good on the spinning.
Nope.
And so that's the hardest part for me. I always have to really, and it's so sporadic, you never know if it's going to spin a lot or just a tiny bit. And so I'm always trying to kind of find my focal point and hoping that that time that I'm on it, the raft doesn't spin that much. But it also does make it kind of more fun too, because you can see where geysers are or where the waterfall and things are, where water's dripping on you. And you don't know who's going to get it. Even as you're going down the drop, you spin.
Yeah.
And so like whoever's positioned to be getting
Sometimes the person whose like back is to like the top of the waterfall is actually the safest person.
Yeah, you just never know, because it could spin around and you don't know who's going to be the one that ends up. And
There's
so
lots of suspense in this ride.
there is a lot of suspense in it. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, definitely crazy.
Moving on, there are actually holes in the bottom of the raft that allows water to come up into the floor.
Yeah, so your feet will get wet too. During refurbishments, water from this attraction are stored in the water features of Pacific Wharf. And I didn't know that. But I mean, it has to go somewhere.
Yep.
So that's what they do with it.
There are beautiful, quiet, peaceful walkways that weave alongside and around this attraction. It's a great spot for those who are not riding to wait. And there's a good point, which is really good for getting photos or videos of riders coming down when the drops.
Yeah, so they have a great little viewpoint there. So if you aren't riding, if you're waiting for a group, or even if you're just wandering around, because it's a great shady, quiet place to just walk. It's very peaceful, really pretty. So if you're ever in that area, it's kind of fun to watch. But if you've got people on the ride that you're not on, just watch from that point and you'll get a good spot for videos and photos and things like that.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get to some tips.
Well, no matter where you are in the raft, you will get wet. The seats that are right next to the opening, or like the enter and exit of the raft, will have the most water. Like, they get soaked.
Yeah, so it's an 8-person raft, but I'm trying to remember if it's 2 groups of 4, I think it is. Yeah. And so there's 2 entrance points. So there's two seats of 4 across from each other with entrances on either side. So both the seats that are on next to those are the ones that are the ones in the middle are the safest.
Yeah.
Just because water will, instead of splashing up against the back of seats, it's going right through the opening.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. If you don't want to get wet, don't ride this ride. But seriously, if you're going to ride the ride and you don't want to get wet, wear a poncho or something. That'll at least protect the top part.
Yep. There is a small ledge under your seat that you can put your heels or feet on. It's harder for taller people.
Yeah, I don't think Dad would be able to use that very well.
Probably not.
All right, so consider changing into flip-flops before riding this if you don't want to walk around with wet shoes afterwards. I would either put my shoes in a plastic bag or something, or just use those lockers like we talked about before.
Yeah. The lines are longest during the afternoon. If you want a shorter line, consider riding in the morning or evening, but have a plan on how you manage getting or being wet if it's cooler weather.
Yeah, if it's cold,
Yeah.
obviously have a plan. They don't have those warming huts anymore. All right, so the nice thing is there is a single rider line, so that will help when the lines are long.
Yeah.
But of course, if you're in the single rider line, there's a good chance you will not be with anyone else in your group once you get on a raft.
Yeah. So another strategy is to ride this in the early afternoon, right before heading back to the hotel for a break, so you can change and dry off completely.
Yeah. And that's a good time for a break anyway, so,
Yeah.
you know. Sometimes people avoid water rides on rainy days. We talked about this when we talked about rainy days, I believe.
Yes.
But if you're already wet, that could be the perfect day to ride. If you're gonna, you can't, you're not gonna worry about whether or not you get wet. You already are wet. Lines are likely to be much shorter, and who cares if you get splashed at that point?
Yeah. If you don't want to use the lockers, you can put your valuables in a gallon-sized Ziploc bag to keep them dry.
Yep. Unless you have a waterproof bag already. But yeah. So watch your step as you're moving on and off the loading platform because it's rotating slowly around. It's like a big, huge circle that just kind of constantly goes around. And when you're stepping off the stairway to get onto it, to load onto the rafts, it can be easy to lose some balance. So just be mindful as you do that. And also the same as going back, getting off the raft and going out. Okay, so what are do you have any favorite memories or anything? I laugh because you always say no, you don't remember anything.
Really? The only thing I just really remember is just having fun, figuring out who's gonna get it, on the drops. Those are just always so fun because you're like, I don't want to get it, and then if it's someone you know,
laughing at them.
Sucker.
It really is. That's my favorite too, and I think that it's always the best when you are riding with family or good friends or something that you can really laugh at. I think my favorite has been when we go with family, and not just our immediate family, but also our extended family.
Yeah.
I don't know, just, I sorry, Tom, but I picture Uncle Tom, just, I'm like, oh, let's hope he gets it. I love you, Tom. But anyways, I think it's fun. That's the most fun part, looking at each other, wondering who's going to get it, hoping you're not. They're teasing you, you're teasing them, and then whoever does get it, yeah.
Yeah.
Unless it's you, then it's like, oh, dang it. But, yeah, it's always fun, too, when Dad gets it.
Oh, yeah.
Poor Dad. But, and poor Tom. Sorry, Tom. Anyways, yeah, so this is a really fun ride. We really enjoy it. We don't always ride it because we don't like getting wet very often. I don't mind going back and taking breaks, but Aurora doesn't like to do that very often.
I don't mind it.
It's not your favorite.
No.
You prefer to stay in the parks. You don't like to waste time with breaks. And so it's less likely for her to want to just ride it and change. Although, I don't know. Maybe we're going to go in the summer this time.
You also have to walk out of the park all wet and it's all soggy.
I know, and if it's a hot enough day, you might be dry by the time you get to your hotel anyways.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is just don't go on this and then go in somewhere that's super air conditioned, like Little Mermaid or a restaurant.
Don't go indoors. Because most likely you're going to be cold.
Instead, do something like, Incredicoaster.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
It's outside and it air dries you. It's blowing air on you the whole time we were riding it.
Yeah.
Yep. So anyways, yeah. Fun ride. A fun one to highlight. A good attraction. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Thanks for listening, and we will talk with you next week.
See you.